Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 6 of the Giro d'Italia, brought to you by Bicycle, the largest global marketplace for pre-owned bikes with over 20,000 pre-owned and refurbished bikes available. Bicycle connects the buyers and sellers to make the process of buying and selling bikes safe, easy, and convenient. Now let's get into today's stage 6 because it's going to be a magnificent one with action throughout the whole stage. At 180 kilometers, about 115 miles in length, it's all flat the first part for 70 kilometers. Then at 110 kilometers to go, they go up the first category climb, about 8 kilometers long, but not super stiff and hard right away in the middle of the stage, but afterwards it stays lumpy and bumpy. And then we have 3 gravel stone sections, the white sands of Italy, Strada Bianchi, better known as anyways, with the second KOM happening on the second gravel stone section. Now that's going to be a little bit more complicated because, of course, once you're on gravel and you're going up climbs, you can't just stand up and get on the bike. Otherwise, if you're on the pedals out of the saddle, the back tire spins a little bit. Now, we got a lot to cover in today's stage, so stay with me and hold on tight because I've already made a mistake. It was a big-time knucklehead. I shot the first 5 minutes of this video and forgot to put my microphone on, so we had to reshoot it. So now this is the second version. I hope you enjoy it. Now, right away from kilometer 0, we see the attacks happening from EF Education starting right away. It's going to be hot and heavy throughout the first 70 kilometers of the flat section of today's stage 6, and Julian Alaphilippe is lighting up everything. Guys, all over the place. He's doing attacks after attacks left and right. And when I take you back to the Peloton, UAE team members are doing a magnificent job. They're just floating around following attack after attack. This is the way you save energy back here if you're wearing the race leader's pink jersey like Tadej Pogacar, and his teammates need to stay fresh for the later stages when we're talking about stage 8 and we get into the proper mountains here of the Giro d'Italia. He's got to keep his guys fresh on today's stage 6, and that's what they look like they're doing to me when I'm sitting on the Chesterfield. We see Milano, the sprinter there for UAE team members. He's always near the front of the peloton, always surfing and following the moves. This is exactly the MO that a sprinter wants to do if he wants to try to help out Tadej Pogacar. He's got to be good through the first flat section of this course so that once they start going uphill with 110 kilometers to go, that's when we're going to see other guys for UAE team members really have to do the bulk of the work. So we see Julian Alaphilippe doing multiple attacks, and we see Milano always at the front of the peloton. Now, Ineos, what were their MO throughout the first part of this stage? They were doing much like UAE team members, surfing a little bit. I've caught them in 1 or 2 moves, but always just when the move was bigger. And then UAE team members, of course, are keeping an eye on Ineos because Garrett Thomas's team is Ineos. So Tadej Pogacar wants to make sure if anybody gets up the road that's dangerous, he'll get some help from Team Ineos behind if his team can't control it in the second half of the stage. So UAE team members, Milano's doing a fantastic job early in this stage 6. And then with about 130 kilometers to go, I love this part when I was bike racing and it was aggressive and full gas the whole time. They basically have to stop being aggressive like riders like Julian Alaphilippe. We're going to see him back at the car getting bottles. He's back there getting a bottle because the racing has been so intense and so fast that sooner or later you just got to go, okay, I got to take a pause out. I got to take a little breath like Julian Alaphilippe because the action's been full gas. And you'll see Domin Novak back there with Julian Alaphilippe at the cars because Milano's up there covering everything so Domin Novak can sit and rest through this flatter sections, and then Domin Novak can go to work in the second half of this stage. So their sprinter for UAE team members doing a fantastic job. Now, it was attacks nonstop. The peloton was strung out all over the time, even when Julian Alaphilippe and Domin were at the car. But Julian Alaphilippe will get back up to the front. Once we start getting in the first category climb, we'll see the Frenchman. He's going up the road with Parapente. Now he's got Firelli in there from Bardiani too as company, and once they start coming up to the top of the first KOM here on stage 6, Firelli looks over there to Julian Alaphilippe and he's asking him, yo Frenchman, can I get this KOM? Of course Julian Alaphilippe gives him the head shake like, yeah, of course, could take the KOM. So we see Firelli get maximum points. Now they go over the top of the KOM, but it's a small gap of about 15 seconds when we see UAE team members pulling the peloton behind over the top of the KOM. If I back the film up behind the peloton here as we're coming up to the top of the KOM, it's Johnny Milan, Little Trek coming out the back. He's a stage winner here, and they messed up yesterday's stage field spread for the Little Trek team. But Johnny Milan's not messing around here because he's got all his teammates wrapped around him except for his GC guy, Juan Pedro Lopez. He's in the front, but he's got 4 teammates back there with Johnny Milan as they know they got to do damage control to see if they can get the Italian sprinter up to the finish of today's race. Now, as we start coming into about 90 kilometers to go, like I said, the front group of 3, they didn't have much time going over the first KOM. So now we got a group of about 20 riders coming up to the Julian Alaphilippe group in the front. And it's being led by Albacine de Koenig with 2 riders. That second place rider, that's Caden Groves, their sprinter. He's going full gas, sitting on his teammate's wheel with about 20 guys. But take a look further down at about the middle to 2/3 of the way back in this group of 20. Well, UAE team members, Domin Novak is in this group. And we'll see Ineos is in the group with Narvaez there. So both Ineos and UAE team members are represented. But like I said, Milano's job throughout the first part of this stage, him covering and always being near the front of the group, now has allowed Domin Novak to cover the crucial moves here from Narvaez. So they got a teammate in this front group too. But the peloton behind, we see it's UAE team member. It's on the front with solid numbers. And Tadej Pogačar is not even touching the front. He looks fantastic as they're coming up to the group of the 20 right there. They're catching, of course, Julian Alaphilippe. And then we see Caden Groves throwing in acceleration. Caden Groves throws in a big acceleration. Julian Alaphilippe goes with the Aussie rider. And then we see Peleo Sanchez. Peleo Sanchez from Movistar's throwing in attack there, going along with Julian Alaphilippe. We'll get 3 guys in the front. Then they're getting chased from 3 behind. Plapp's back there, Matteo Trentin's back there, Farelli, the KOM winner here on the first KOM of today's stage 6. He's in there, the last rider to make it across to this front group of 6 in front. That's Vendrami from AG2R as Vendrami closes the gap and puts 7 riders in the front group. Now this is going to be the breakaway here, finally established after the first KOM and 10 kilometers longer. It's taken a monster ride here of just about 90 kilometers to get the breakaway finally established here on stage 6. Now what's happening behind? UAE team members, calm like a bomb. They got their guys on the front, but nobody's panicking. They're letting the gap go out to about 2 minutes, and then it'll start to extend out to about 3 minutes. Before it reached there, though, there was the sprint points competition that Caden Groves got maximum points for, because he's going to be interested. This was probably why they put Caden Groves in this front move, is to get maximum sprint points. So he wraps that up. Now we're coming into about 55 kilometers to go. Lidl Trek is coming back with 5 riders in the second group with Johnny Milan, their sprinter, as they're coming back up there to the back of the peloton, because the peloton had eased off a little bit from the pace of UAE team members. Now, before we get into the first Gravelstone section, words from our sponsor, Bicycle, and I'll see you guys in just 15 seconds time. Now remember to check out Bicycle in the description if you're interested in a pre-owned bike. They got one ready for you right now. Now we get into the action as we're coming up to the first Gravelstone section with just under 50 kilometers to go. Up front, we see the group of 7 make the left turn and start onto the white roads here of Italy. As they enter the road, it's starting to get interesting back there in the peloton, because the peloton's coming in full gas with Ineos on the front, but Tadej Pogačar is in a fine position there, just a little bit to the left, about 7th wheel back there, so he's looked after fine from his UAE team members with Ineos on the front. Now they're driving it on the front. The gap's still at about 3 minutes to the 7 riders. Plapp's going to throw in a little bit of attack here and just feel the legs of who's going good and who's not going good, but he gets brought back. Then we come out onto the short section between the Gravelstone section 1 and Gravelstone section 2 here on stage 6. Real small section before they get onto the second Gravelstone section. And then Plapp throws in another tack. This will bring out a couple other guys, because Julian Alaphilippe been flying since 165 kilometers to go. And now he's going there with Plapp along with Sanchez. Peleo Sanchez from Movistar is locked on to put 3 riders in the front group here on the second Gravelstone section. What's happening to the other 4 riders? They're blowing up back there, but what's happening to the peloton behind? We'll see Johnny Milan. He gets back on the front for Juan Pedro Lopez, bringing him up to the front of the peloton. Right here, this really isn't necessary to be pulling on the front. Johnny Milan, what you want to do is bring him to the front to UAE team members or the Ineos, and then just keep him there on the back wheel of one of the big GC teams here at the Giro d'Italia, because riding the front, sometimes, a lot of times, the riders think that I'm helping out my teammate here by being on the front. But Johnny Milan, you're just wasting a ton of energy, and you're going to waste energy here on stage 6 of the Giro the longer you stay on the front, and you're not helping your teammate out anymore once you got him to the front. Well, Johnny Milan's going to pay for that. He's going to drop out a little bit sooner on this second gravel stone section. But look as we're coming into this left turn here, and then we're going to see some of the GC favorites get held up as they're going too far on the inside of the gravel roads. That's Keon Ultebrooks, Danny Martinez, and Ben O'Connor that get held up, and our Ensman's at the front of the peloton driving it right now for Ineos. Those 3 leaders will get themselves back on, and then we go up to the front group of 3 with about 30 kilometers to go, and we see Julian Alaphilippe arguing right now with Sanchez. I don't know what it's about, but they're wasting some energy, and Plapp's thinking, guys, I'm watching my pink jersey opportunity here at the end of today's stage 6 disappear if you guys keep playing. So let's just ride hard. Let's get to the end of the stage and see who can win stage 6, or possibly I could get myself into the pink jersey is what Plapp's thinking. Well, those 3 riders are still drilling it. Now they're coming into the third and final gravel stone section, but they don't have much of a lead. It's down to about a minute, 20 minutes, and 30 seconds there to the 3 leaders in front. And when we look back at the peloton, well, the peloton still got Ineos on the front. As we back the camera up, going over the second KOM, UAE team members had taken control going on the road sections, the paved sections here of Strada Bianche. But then once we come into the last and final cobblestone section, Ineos is back on the front with the third section just starting to begin. Ineos going full gas on the front, and they're trying to blow this stuff up. Now there's a crash in the back, and this holds up Juan Pedro Lopez from Lidl Trek. Lidl Trek's in panic mode right here as he's going around the right side. We'll see Will Barta from Movistar. He's trapped under all the bikes, but Juan Pedro Lopez has to hop off his bike because he's got a gear problem with his chain. I imagine he's putting his chain back on. Luckily, Gabriel Xavier is there to help Juan Pedro Lopez, and if I back the film all the way up to 55 kilometers to go, well, it was Gabriel Xavier that was back there helping Johnny Milan get back up to this front group. Then Johnny Milan helped, of course, Juan Pedro Lopez going through the gravel stone sections here to put him at the front. Now Gabriel Xavier is going to have to do a stellar ride here for Juan Pedro Lopez to get him back onto the end of the peloton again before stage 6 finishes, or GC starting to go out the window. We look up at the front, at the peloton here, it's Magnus Sheffield going full gas. Right now, I don't mind them right in the front, right at this section when the bump's coming down and it's coming back up. You see the peloton all strung out. We see Magnus Sheffield, he's going full gas up there for Geraint Thomas. He's in a good position. Maybe something can happen behind to some of the cluster of guys back there as the peloton's strung out. But in general, Ineos still have Tadej Pogačar in a good position, so they're not doing damage to the Slovenian. But Magnus Sheffield is at the front, pulling along full gas. Now, as the peloton regroups back there, and we're coming up to about 5 kilometers to go, we go all the way up to the 7 leaders. Their gap's down to about 40 seconds right now as we're starting another bump in the road, and this one's a steep bump for a couple kilometers. We see Plapp has been looking back over his shoulder. He throws in an acceleration in his first attack. That's countered right away from Julian Alaphilippe and Sanchez, with Julian Alaphilippe on the front getting the gap going through the crowds. You know he's full gas right now trying to drop Plapp. Plapp's back there swinging big time. Now let's back the film up and let's go back and see what the peloton's doing, because it starts to go curb to curb, and it's Bardiani with Pozzovivo on the left side. They're trying to get him into this last final 5 kilometers before the climb starts proper, because everyone knows the peloton could blow up if the Slovenian Tadej Pogačar decides to blow it up. We go back up to the front of the group. As they're coming out of this final climb here, Plapp is digging hard to get back onto the group of 2 there. Now we got 3 guys in the front as they go over the top. It's a narrow, twisty descent here. Plapp's going to get a little recovery, and the 3 riders are rotating through magnificently because the gap's down to about 25 seconds. We go back to the peloton when they hit the 5 kilometer to go climb. Who was throwing in an attack? Well, it was kind of calm with UAE team members near and around the front, but then we see it's Bardet, Roman Bardet. DSM's found some form. Remember when he blew up on stage 1? Well, he's recovered from that. He's feeling better. He was a little sick then. Now Roman Bardet's throwing in attack, but look at Tadej Pogačar sitting down on the saddle as Roman Bardet's stretching for every amount of power he can find on the pedal, standing up, going as hard as he can, but he can't drop Tadej Pogačar back there. We go up to the front group of 3 as they're coming into 1.2 kilometers to go. Plapp's on the front, followed by Julian Alaphilippe, followed by Sanchez. Then Julian Alaphilippe's like, I don't want to be second wheel. He pulls out. Sanchez pulls in the second behind Plapp. Then 100 meters later, maybe only 50 meters later, Sanchez says, I don't want to be second wheel either. So Sanchez pulls out, and then Julian Alaphilippe has to slot back into second place. Now we got Plapp still on the front from 1.2 kilometers to go. The Aussie rider decides right now, I believe anyways, up here, my personal opinion, he can't win the sprint, so he's just going to try to get a podium here on stage 6 because he takes over riding at the front. You see him looking back over his shoulder many times. The gap's down to about 21 seconds, 19 seconds I saw at times. With Plapp on the front, he's driving it in all the way to about 200 meters to go. Now we go back and look at the peloton. Well, Rafael Micah had controlled everything over the final last difficult climb here on stage 6. So I take you in the 200 meters to go with Plapp. Rounding the bend here, the last final bend with about 190 meters to go. Julian Alaphilippe throws in attack because it's a right bend, so he wants to go in first. The Frenchman from Pseudo Quickstep leads around the left side there of Plapp and takes the lead quickly, but he's got Sanchez locked onto his wheel. Once we come out of the bend, Sanchez is going side to side with Julian Alaphilippe. 50 meters to go. Sanchez knows he's going to win stage 6. He starts shaking his head in disbelief. Julian Alaphilippe shaking his head in pure pain as you see it spin it over to the left side there as he's hurt and giving everything he can, but knows he's not going to win stage 6 here on the white sands of Italy as we see the winner, Paleo Sanchez from Movistar, cross the line to win a fantastic stage 6 from Movistar. Julian Alaphilippe gets second. Plapp for Jaco Lula round out the podium here on stage 6. What happened back there, the GC guys? Well, Rafael Micah did a stellar job of bringing everything into the finish here for UAE Emirates Tadej Pogacar, who will cross the line safely here on stage 6 and keep the race leader's pink jersey to start the individual time trial tomorrow for stage 7 while wearing the pink. Now we see him warming down on his TT bike, and UAE team members have had his TT bike up there for Tadej Pogacar after every stage here to warm down on. So when we start tomorrow's stage 7 of the individual time trial, when we see the first big selection of the GC guys at the finish of tomorrow's 40-kilometer time trial, we're going to see exactly how well TT and what kind of form Geraint Thomas has, and whether or not if he can perform like Tadej Pogacar can, or maybe it's Filippo Ganna day tomorrow in stage 7, because Filippo Ganna, he dropped off a little bit early on the Gravelstone sections along with Johnny Milan. So I imagine Filippo Ganna, because I don't think he would have dropped that early on this stage 6. He's probably trying to save a little bit of legs for tomorrow's stage 7 individual time trial. Either way, fantastic tactical racing here from Tadej Pogacar to save his legs. And more importantly, it's not about saving Tadej Pogacar's legs. It's about saving the legs of his teammate here on stage 6. That's what UAE Team Emirates did throughout the stage. Now when I'm talking about Ineos, I don't really like it. I think they should have put guys in the break for sure, been more aggressive throughout the first part of the stage when clearly they looked like they wanted to keep it all together and get Geraint Thomas to the finish of today's race. But I think they should have played for the break and tried to win the stage and then hope that they have other guys to look after Geraint Thomas, or he follows UAE team members through the Gravelstone sections here of stage 6 and then just finishes out the stage and they try to get a stage victory with one of their other teammates. Instead, they rode the front a bit too much, I think, but of course, they had their other plans, and Geraint Thomas believes riding the front of the peloton, pulling Tadej Pogacar is always a good plan. I don't believe it up here on the butterfly effect, but that's the way they played it. Tomorrow, the big battle for the general classification of the Giro d'Italia starts on stage 7 of the Giro d'Italia, so like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next edition real soon.